everyone. Nobody's in this meeting with me here. So I'm reaching out. There's no one here. It's just me right now. So this could be a very short program, and we'll reload till next week. I'll tap dance and see if our experts show in. We're supposed to do education, Microsoft Teams education. We chatted yesterday, so I don't know if the meeting invite didn't get to them or whatever. Anyway, I'll tap dance for a minute and see if they show up. Shingles. Have you guys had shingles? I have not, and I don't intend to. So I've had the 2 shingle shot panel, I guess you call it. I had the first one in, let's go with September, and that knocked me out, like worse than the COVID shot. So the COVID shot, you feel bad for a little while and you go. That one like took me out for a day and a half, like fever, chills, the whole thing. But then you're good. I had the second shingles shot on what's today, Friday, on Wednesday morning. And I'm like, this is great. No problem. It's like all day. I'm waiting for it to hit. 9 o'clock at night with nothing. 10 p.m. hits. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to go to sleep. And I'll just sleep through the fever and the chills. I could not. It took me 2 hours to get to sleep. I took the sleeping pills and the melatonin and all that. And then it took me 2 hours to get to sleep. And then like every 30 minutes, according to my watch, I had my watch tracking, put my watch on. I had my watch tracking the my sleep. And I was sleeping for like 30 minutes, awake for 8 minutes, sleeping for 30 minutes, awake for 8 minutes. So that was so yesterday I was a mess. I took a nap, and today I'm good. So hi everyone. Sorry, I'm just tap dancing, seeing if our guests are going to show up. You can ask questions. I guess you can do a stump the chump or whatever. Ask me questions in the chat. Oh wow, Robert Carmichael got the shingles at 26. That's early. I got it because once you clear 50 years old, it's one of those things old people do. So I did it. My dad he hasn't had the shingle shot. He's 70 something, 80 something, 1940 to 83. He hasn't gotten it. So I don't know if maybe it's a genetic thing that my family doesn't get it, but I'm just doubling down because I've heard that they are the worst. Best practices in rooms. We can do some freestyling on best practices in rooms. I just completed delivering my first hybrid workshop. So thanks for all your work on that content. Well, thank you. I'm not sure exactly which content you're referencing, but all the Microsoft training material that I did when I was at Microsoft is available on Learn now. It's like aka.ms/learn teams rooms learning teams rooms, one aka.ms like that. You can download them all. I'm at Jabra now, so I have downloaded all that. And I think in March, Microsoft always did the boot camps that I did. I was the lead trainer on. We're going to do it as part of Jabra. So for those of you who want to see the updated training or want to send your customers or partners or whatever to that, we're going to do that. This virtual background is a picture I took of my office. And so that's that. Game of 60-minute stream of consciousness video about shingles. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shingles Talk. And Dave, I am feeling better. I did get a good night's rest. Let's go back to your question about best practices in rooms. Boy, there's so many, right? There's a section in the training I just mentioned about best practices in rooms. So it starts with, before you even buy any material, any equipment, what is the room, right? We're all talking open spaces, right? So if there are no walls, that impacts the equipment you're going to buy. They're glass walls, so now audio is going to bounce around. Light can be a challenge if you have all glass walls. So the first best practice is know your space. Know the acoustics and lighting. Is everybody going to be backlit? Maybe you have to buy some things. Maybe you have to buy shades that automatically shut down, which then how do they automatically shut down? You link in with Extron or Crestron or someone like that, which then dictates, do you want to have that all on the MTR, which kind of locks you down to Crestron? Or, you can just have a button on the wall. Then you can use any MTR vendor. Most people, turn the lights on and the shades automatically come down. You don't have to do it from the MTR console. So the first best practice is know each room. Hopefully, and I'm thinking back to the offices I've worked in over the years, most of the conference rooms are roughly the same. Like they're on the interior of the building, right by the elevators, so there's no lighting. But then there's always the executive board of the office I'm thinking of, all windows, top floor, big desk, so that changes. So you see, so that also leads to God, I'm just rambling. Teams Rooms Android versus Teams Rooms Windows. So you could use Android in all the interior conference rooms because they were, more stable. You didn't need to get into exotic AV and then Windows in the executive room. So that's like meeting room standard number one. Then standardize on I don't see how to say this. OEM. I think this is a personal thing. I don't think this is necessarily a thing. I just think when I was in IT, back then we bought HP everything, HP servers, HP laptops, HP PCs, because then we had one relationship. If there was a bug, it would hit all of our laptops or all of our servers, but it was all fixed in one place. We didn't have to sit there and track down Lenovo and HP and Dell and IBM. Well, IBM for servers. We didn't have to track all that down. So I would go with try to pick one vendor. Now that may not work because your preferred Android vendor doesn't have Windows devices, or vice versa. Your preferred Windows vendor doesn't have Android devices. So at least try to keep it to minimal. Just reading the notes that Robert just put in. I work for Microsoft Teals program. We work with schools to bring in industry professionals to help teach computer science. One of my schools is having an issue with breakout rooms and teams. Teachers having to move all the volunteers around the breakout rooms instead of them being able to move themselves. I don't. You're pushing my knowledge on breakout rooms. I thought that you can pre-assign breakout rooms now. You can pre-assign people into rooms, so that might help that situation. I don't know if this is just a statement or a question, but this is Ramble Talk with Michael Tressler today. You can pre-assign people into breakout rooms. Breakout room support is coming to Teams Rooms, since this is Teams Rooms Talk. Breakout rooms is coming to Teams Room support. It's on the roadmap. And otherwise, if it's not working like that, like it's expected, then go with a support ticket. Patrick Young's jumping in. Control integration is coming to other vendors, for example, Yalink, QSC, and Poly Extron partnerships. So that's great to hear. I know Crestron was on the forefront of all that. And in the back of my head, when I said that Crestron line, I was like, can Yalink has some slide out controls. They're pretty progressive on that. So it looks like it's coming. Hi, Greg Jeffries. Greetings. I don't think I'll be at ISE, so I won't see you in Barcelona this year, Greg. But if you're coming to Enterprise Connect, let's catch up. Back to Teams Room standards. So know the room you're going to go to. Try to find all the rooms that are similar to each other and standardize on those. So, roll through there. Then standardize on a vendor is a thing. The install, use quality cabling. Mount the control panel in the same place in every room. Some people mount them by the door. That's great. Just walk in, hit join. Most of the time, I think the majority of meetings, people aren't pushing buttons other than join and exit for the most part. And now there's the remote on your mobile device coming to the Teams desktop client. So tap away on that on your mobile phone. But mount those in all the same places. Mount the TVs at the right height. I'm hitting Greg Jeffries land here. Mount the cameras at eye level with the attendees in pretty much every room. If you need assistance, reach out to Greg Jeffries at Interactive Display. He'd love to talk to you on standardizing your room design, especially the video portion of it. And then I think, unless I'm missing something obvious, operations. Let's jump next to end user training. Train all your end users. It's awesome to hear. In my mind, because I've been in IT now for 8 years, end user IT. That's when I joined Microsoft 6 years ago. So it's been 7 years since I was in IT. I'm happily surprised. Surprised is probably the wrong word. When I talk to people and they're like, yeah, our end users do all of this, air quotes, advanced stuff. Like, to me, it's like, can you train people to know to invite a conference room in their Outlook invite? It always seems like, when I think of like my mom or whatever, she wouldn't know how to do that, but proper training. So Nate, hi Nate. I know Nate works at a large company directly doing Teams Room support. So he could probably go on about how he trains his users to use the MTRs properly. So there's another standard. Train your users. I wouldn't necessarily do it on onboarding, because having onboarded recently to job, you just get overwhelmed. You're busy trying to figure out how's my paycheck going to work? Like, how am I going to get paid? That's a priority for me. What are the HR policies here that might be tighter or more differently than elsewhere? I don't have time to learn about the unique of how to schedule a conference room. So maybe maybe 2 or 3 months after someone gets onboarded, throw the Teams Rooms training at them, and then annual updates. So I would put that ahead of then the operations of the room as a priority. Then the operations is walk the rooms once a week. I'd love to hear Nate's comment on this. I feel like sending Nate a link and having to drag him in. Walk the rooms once a week to make sure that the cables are still there, the TVs work. Yes, Teams Admin Center and Teams Premium or Teams Rooms Pro portal will tell you a lot of things, but that's mostly software based. It won't tell you that the HDMI ingest cable is broken, right? That somebody clipped the end off, or that one of the speakers is live, but it's buzzing, like the speaker blew, right? Because the speaker's still reporting into Teams. So, visual display. Sorry, not interactive display. Sorry, Greg Jeffries, visual displays. So check out, he's done some really good white papers, Greg Jeffries. So this is Ramble Talk, since no guests, including the co-hosts, Martin and Ruben, aren't here. So this is Ramble Talk for a little while. Then check operations to make sure all of that works. And then another best practice then, as you start getting advanced, is leveraging Teams Pro Portal, reporting analytics. You may want to consider third-party. There's some really good third-party analytics that add onto Teams Rooms. The alerting in Teams Admin Center is terrible. So you'll have to do third-party alerting, really, unless you just want the emails from the Pro Portal. But if you want to, and then the Pro Portal will link into ServiceNow, but if you're not using ServiceNow, do things like that. So there's my long, rambling, unprepared answer on best practices for Teams Rooms. Echoing Robert Carmichael's Teals shout out, it's a rewarding volunteer experience, and you do not need to be a Microsoft employee. Oh, really? Geeking out with kids on computer science in local high school is super rewarding. aka.ms/Teals. I came across Teals at Microsoft. What do we used to call that thing? There's the conference of, not Ignite. Damn it. It happened twice a year, once in Seattle, once in Vegas, and the Vegas one was really sales focused. The internal Microsoft Ignite for internal Microsoft employees. Anyway, I was there and I met a Teals person, and I probably should have followed up, but time passes and you give up. So Teals is a program, I guess, for even non-Microsoft people to apply your computer science knowledge or just your IT knowledge or whatever your particular skill is to high schools and students to mentor them. So you don't have to do a lot. You can do as much or as little as you want. So if you just want to pitch in for a day or two or make it a semester long commitment, check out ak.ms/Teals. I kind of forgot about that, but it's one of the things we as a community can do to give back to the next generation and hopefully mold them to do things like use Teams and not Outlook. And no, Inspire was the sales one. Thanks, Josh. Inspire is the one for the annual sales kickoff in Las Vegas. They kind of got rid of it at Microsoft, which really sucks. Probably to cut funds, and then when Jean-Philippe left, that was his baby, so I don't think anyone really picked it up. Looks like there's some front row talk as well. Single screen every time for front row. I think so. Single screen versus dual screen on front row. I think I would lean towards Greg Jeffries' answer that is single screen for front row, because you get a really large screen and there's a lot less bouncing around left and right. The only downside is you see fewer icons, fewer heads on the bottom on single screen mode versus dual screen mode. I think that's the only downside. I think everything else, as far as cabling it up, ease of use, not having bezels in the middle of an image, I think all of those are kind of the reasons why I think I tend to agree with Greg, unless you have a killer use case where you need to see 8 heads on the bottom instead of 6. I forget the exact number off the top of my head. I think that's the only time you would want to go with something else. Let's see. Ramble Talk with Michael Tressler. I'm running out of things to say. Training on the user of the room for regular users is a gap for most people that I see using the rooms I have set up. So Dave is kind of jumping in, agreeing that there is a gap in end user training. And since this is Teams Fridays, not Teams Rooms Fridays, I tend to think that is accurate the whole way through. I joined Jabra 5 weeks ago. There was 0 Teams training. We're not a huge company, 8,000 people, but you would think there's some canned module somewhere about how to use Teams, and that wasn't there. It would have been a waste of my time to watch it, but that's just because I've been doing Teams since day one. Actually, before day one at Microsoft, we rolled it out internally about 3 months before the general availability date. So add that to your onboarding. I would onboard with even a 10-minute video on what is Teams and how to use it. And then 2 or 3 months later, Teams Rooms. And I just go 2-3 months later just because I think it'll have a higher impact. People will have been invited to a bunch of meetings for the first 2 or 3 months as they learn and ramp up. And about that time is when they will start creating their own meetings. Like they know their job. They have, if they're a manager, they now have their people. If you're if you're responsible for a product, whatever your task is, you may need to then set up meetings. So I think 2 to 3 months later is the right time for an MTR training. Let's see, anything else before I just wrap it up after 17 minutes of me rambling? Anything else off the top of my head? I don't want to turn it into a Jabra advertisement, because we're using the StreamYard paid by Microsoft, not by Jabra. So I'll try to be cognizant of that. One thing that is interesting, if you're like me on the Teams Room side and Teams Devices side, is actually running a Teams community for a not-for-profit is interesting, because you run into all the things that you know about but didn't do anything about. Like we record our bylaws. They're old. We have to record every meeting according to the bylaws using a tape cassette recorder. We don't do that. We just fire up a Microsoft Teams meetings. Once I got there, we started using Teams. People still show up in person, but occasionally people do dial in, air quotes, dial in, join via Teams meeting remotely. And then we record the meetings using Teams as opposed to a cassette tape player, because come on, Grandpa. A little while ago, Microsoft introduced automatic deletion of recordings of meetings. And I knew that. So we've lost a bunch of our meeting recordings. So then when somebody points it out, the secretary pointed it out. He was like, hey, what happened to all the recordings of the meetings I've been recording? I'm like, oh, crap. So since we so rarely, we only record, we're small, not for profit. So yeah, make sure it's fun being the Teams admin as opposed to just the user. Even in your own lab, right? In your own lab, who cares about the 90-day meeting retention policy? Who cares, right? I'm not recording anything. And if I do record something like for a video, I copy it off from OneDrive to my PC, then put in the video editor, and it's done. So fun times being the admin. We use a ton of guest accounts. We're not for profit. We don't have money. At least not money to spend on a bunch of E1 or E3 licenses. So guest accounts, we pay for 2 E3 licenses. We also pay for a common area phone account. We use one phone number. All of the phones in the clubhouse are that one common area phone, and it's awesome. The common area phone thing, that one license, that $8 a month. Here is the common area phone from the clubhouse. I can answer the calls here at home. Right here's an audio codes that I'm using to, when it rings, I can say, hey, thank you for calling the society. How may I help you? And I have, if you followed me on LinkedIn, you saw I got a bunch of free phones for the clubhouse. I have a ton more. So this year, the board, I'm going to try to coerce people to take some phones home, because we don't have we're open so sporadically, right? We're not a business. We open for events and dances and concerts and festivals, but we're not open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So I'm going to send a bunch of, in this case, Poly CCX 400s, I think, to board members with PoE injectors using Wi-Fi, baby. As I train and train and train, don't use Wi-Fi for media. I'm going to let people just take phones home and put them on whatever random Wi-Fi they have, and we're going to live with it. So we'll see how that works out. But that's, one common area phone license, $8 a month. We have 8 phones on the little campus there, a 9th here. Maybe 4 or 5 other people will agree to have the phone at home. So $8 for 15 phones, beat that. We're using, and then the calling plan, we get 3 inbound calls a day on average, maybe 2 on average, and then a couple outbound calls. So I have all phones. Yes, William, I have all phones signed into the same CAP account. CAP1 at ourdomain.com, all of them. There's and by the way, that goes first to an auto attendant. So that phone number, the Microsoft calling phone number, goes to an auto attendant. Thank you for calling the society. If there's any important announcements, we're doing a concert. It's sold out, so I updated the announcement. No more tickets available for that. Then it goes to a call tree. Press 1 for finance. Press 2 for the Oktoberfest committee. Press 3 for whatever, or just hang. So wait, hold on. Yeah, then just hang on. And then if you'd like to speak to someone, just hang on. Then it rings the phones, and then it goes to voicemail for the CAP1 account. So it then goes to the CAP1 voicemail, which is awesome because then it sends me the transcription of the voicemail. I can then read it and forward that voicemail to the proper person. So if it's, the finance person wasn't there, they probably weren't there. So I can forward them like, hey, somebody was asking about payment or, whatever. I can email that over to them. Also, there is a lady who does check the voicemails whenever she goes in. So then I email her saying, hey, when you get to this voicemail, it's been taken care of. So yeah, 1 common area phone account, 15 phones, and we run our business phone off of $8 a month plus the PSTN calling charge, which I don't know what it is off the top of my head. Hot desking, not many information at all. Microsoft Spaces maybe will improve that. So hot desking. So if you didn't see, check my LinkedIn. Sandhya Rao at Microsoft, the product manager for all Android devices, or at least not. Well, I'm not sure how it is now. It used to be all Android devices. Now it's Microsoft, except for Microsoft Teams rooms. How's this work? Is this locked up? How do I get back to the homepage? I'm hitting the Teams button. Chat, join. Oh, well, I was going to show. Here's a Crestron Teams display, which is apparently stuck on this screen. I don't use it very often. So, and like my camera, I even hid my camera. Hide the camera slider. So, hot desking. This is something that is there because it goes back. Hot desking has always been on Teams phones. Actually, it was back on Skype for Business phones, where people can just, the phone is signed in as Alice, and then Bob can hit the hot desking button, sign in as Bob, and take over that phone for a period of time, and then he can sign out, or a timer expires and he gets automatically signed out. And then, so it's a way to share devices. So that's the hot desking thing. Now Microsoft is, and I will say this straight up, I wouldn't have put it in these terms if I were still at Microsoft. Microsoft's behind the times on hot desk. They're trying to catch up. And so the idea with Teams Display, and it's a good idea. A lot of employees nowadays don't even carry laptops anymore. You do everything from your mobile phone. But there are times you find yourself in the office because you had meetings, and you do want to whip up a really important large email, or you want to take those notes you took on your phone. You took some notes during the meeting, and you want to write them up better. So you want a full keyboard situation. So you go to the hoteling area where there are 30 Teams displays. You can ad hoc hot desk it. Just basically go sign in as yourself, sign in as Alice, and there you have all the teams you want. And I believe you can get to some of the web-based Office apps like Word, PowerPoint, Excel. It's not easy to get to them, but you can get to them. And basically, you have to open an attachment off of your OneDrive and then wing it from there. So right there, it's not a great experience. You're limited to Teams and lucking your way into Office apps. So that's where it falls apart. I have this dream for Microsoft that they do one of two things. One, add a tightly curated app store. So they could post all the Microsoft Android apps, right? The full version of Office, for example. And then curated apps from partners, be it Salesforce, ServiceNow, those Adobe, those same partners Microsoft is really tight with. Maybe not the maybe not a couple of them, but and then you'd have the main business apps. No games, no cruft, and then you can use those local apps on Teams display. I think a better solution is to have Microsoft Edge in a very tight sandbox, and then the admins can pin your company intranet, your company HR, a couple of the 4 or 5, pin those onto the desktop or into a folder on the desktop. And then I, as the end user, can launch Edge and then just go to whatever site I want to. Super tight, super sandboxed. Yeah, Teams OS, Joao. That's kind of where I'm headed. But all you have to do is enable Edge access. And I think that gets you to 90% of PC replacement on an appliance. And the appliance model is great. You don't have to manage Windows updates. You don't have to worry about people plugging in, malware-ridden USB devices. Easy to update the OS, right? Just go to Teams Admin Center, go get the update. Or as we saw in selling Teams rooms, the native rings is now in Teams Admin Center, so you can put those on every 60 days after the latest firmware. All your Teams devices, Teams displays get updated. So I think Teams displays are good. I never use mine that I have on the desk. The only time I ever use my Teams display is one as a demo, like I just kind of held it up. And when I'm late for a meeting, like I overslept and it's like, oh crap, I don't have time to sign in, find Teams. I can just go to the Teams display. It's going to already have a little thing popped up like your meeting started 4 minutes ago. You just click join it on there, sit down, get your desktop straightened out, transfer the call to the desktop. That's my use case. But again, this is home office. I do see a legitimate use case in shared hotel spaces, but if I were in IT, I don't know how many I would buy until you can break out of the Teams silo and at least get native access to Word documents. The other part about Edge is, what if adding Edge support, you may not be, you may be a Google shop, right? So we use Teams, but we use, what do they call it? What are the notes, or what do they call whatever they call the little apps in Google land? Then you can open up an Edge browser, get to your company's documents. The Crestron is a small one. You can think of the Crestron Flex as Rev 2 of the Lenovo ThinkSmart. So it is kind of a smaller utilitarian device as opposed to a full desktop replacement. It is kind of a thing to help you. I think another use case for Teams display that's really good is now that people are returning to the office, right? So you built your own space at home, right? For 2 years. Now you're giving up a lot of that space, like the kitchen table's now returned to being a kitchen table. I like William's comment here. My Teams display is good for, I should put these up. Sorry. I'm not producing. There you go. We got some of these. And this one here. So people are now, the kitchen table is returned to a kitchen table, but you're still working from home 2 days a week. So you're now working off a laptop. Maybe you were the whole time, but now if you have a Teams display next to you, you can have all your Teams calls here and still have 100% of your screen real estate for your laptop. And then, the Teams display is like this Crestron is just PoE, right? It's just PoE. Let me check. Yes, one cable, just PoE. So it's easy to, take it off the kitchen table at the end of the day, along with your laptop, stuff it in a corner, and then, a day or two later, put it back on the desk. So I think that's a good use as a companion device. So not a desktop replacement, but as a companion device. They've gotten pricier. That ThinkSmart was so cheap at the end. I think you could get them for $99. You might still be able to get them for $99. If you want to play with Teams display, just spend the $99, get a ThinkSmart. Know that they're out of support. I think Lenovo has officially canceled the product. So you might get a year or two more of firmware updates before then they don't get updated anymore. So keep in mind there's a termination date on the ThinkSmart, but it's a good way to get started. I think that's all I have to ramble on Ramble Time since nobody joined me today. And the thing, it's disappointing because I did talk yesterday on Teams chat with not only our guests, but the co-hosts, Martin and Ruben. Jimmy has the COVID, so he's not going to join. And Marin Corrigan, she joins on occasion, but she had a 9:30 call. So I guess thanks for hanging out. I don't see any more questions coming in on the chat. So bye, everyone. Have a great weekend. And we'll be back in 2 weeks, hopefully with more than just me rambling on about things that popped in my head and your questions. So thanks for your questions. And have a great weekend, everybody.